Hi everyone and welcome. Have you ever felt confused about all the different types of wool used in needle felting? In this brief video, I'm going to go over the basics of wool and try to answer some common questions. I'll talk a bit about sheep and why their wool works so well for felting, how wool is processed and measured, what core wool is, the different types of wool and what they're used for in felting, the best types of wool for beginners, and what wools I personally use for my own projects. When I started needle felting, I had absolutely no clue about anything to do with wool. In fact, I didn't even really know it existed as a creative medium except in yarn form. When I discovered the craft of needle felting, I ordered a beginner kit from Amazon, and it contained small amounts of colored wool that appeared pretty much the same to me. But as I started using it, I noticed that the textures were different and that some seemed to work better than others, and I didn't really know why. In fact, I went for almost a year buying the wrong types of wool and getting frustrated that my felts were taking so long and that they didn't look the way I wanted them to. What I didn't realize back when I bought my kit is that beginner kit contained different types of wool and what a huge difference the various types of wool make to how easy and quickly you needle felt. So let's start at the very beginning. The vast majority of needle felting wool comes from sheep. There are other animals that produce wools, such as alpacas, rabbits, and goats that can be felted, but I don't have any experience with those, so I'm going to stick to sheep's wool in this video. So why is sheep's wool so good for needle felting? Well, each wool fiber is covered in tiny scales, so when they're poked repeatedly with a barbed felting needle, the scales lock together, tangling the fibers and bonding them. The more the wool is poked, the more densely the fibers will tangle together, creating a strong bond. There are hundreds of different breeds of sheep. I won't list them all, of course, but some breeds whose wool is used widely for needle felting are Corriedale, Merino, Blueface, Leicester, Coopworth, and Herdwick, to name just a few. These sheep's fibers vary greatly in how fine they are, with Merino being the finest, but in my opinion, although the breed definitely does make a difference to felting, it's the way it's been processed that makes the biggest difference. Once the wool is sheared and cleaned, it can either be carded, combed, or left as is. Carded, as it applies to felting, means the wool has been mixed and blended so that the fibers run in all directions, creating a mass of fibers called a bat. Available in many different sheep breeds, bats come in flat sheets in many colors and can be easily pulled apart. Carded wool bats are great for quick felting and for creating a smooth yet slightly textured surface by felting layers of wool directly down. Carded wool can also come in slivers or slivers, I've heard both pronunciations used equally often, which is long ropes of carded wool. You can pull slivers apart easily too. When wool is combed, the fibers don't run in all directions, but are processed to align parallel with each other to create a consistently even, dense rope. Combed wool is often called comb top or tops, or roving, and can't be as easily pulled apart as carded wool. Combed wool is also available in a wide array of colors, and it's great for uses such as planting fur, which is the process of attaching long fibers to a coarse shape to mimic the appearance of animal fur. Like carded wool, combed wool is available in numerous sheep breeds. Some sheep have naturally beautiful, long, curly wool that is used uncarded for various things in the wool and crafting world. They're called locks, and for needle felting, they're used to add texture and effects to needle felted items such as hair and beards, and they're also perfect for making sheep because what could be better to use to make a sheep than their wool in its natural form? What are microns and staple length? Well, I won't go too deeply into how wool is measured because this is an introductory video, but basically the diameter of the wool fiber is measured in microns or millionths of a meter. A lower micron count indicates a finer and softer fiber, for example, a merino fiber, and a higher count indicates a coarser feel, for example, a Herdwick fiber. Usually felting wool falls somewhere in between the 18 to 35 micron range. What exactly is core wool? Core wool is usually less processed, less expensive, undyed, slightly coarser wool that's used to build the inner core of 3D felt sculptures. Because it's not as heavily processed, you can usually see bits of what's called vegetable matter in it, which is completely normal and doesn't mean it's dirty. I start off all my needle felted sculptures with core wool. So what's the best wool for beginner felters? Well, if you're starting out with a project that has a flat surface, I can't recommend using carded wool enough. The biggest reason that carded wool is recommended for beginners and is preferred by many experienced felters as well, is because it felts faster and you can achieve an even, smooth surface easier and faster than you can with non-carded wool. As we've discussed, carded wool fibers have already been mixed in all directions, which cause them to interlock much quicker than smoothly aligned combed fibers. So what types of wools do I use? Well, I always start off my projects with core wool. Once I make my core, I'll complete my sculpture with either a carded bat or a combed merino tops, depending on what I want the finished effect to be. For sculptures with a smooth, flat finish, like these ones, I use a carded bat. After working with various bats, I've settled on a Maori blend as my favorite, which is a type of bat that uses a combined Corriedale and Coopsworth fibers. It's relatively fast to felt and yields a smooth but slightly textured surface, which I love. For fur planting, I use a combed merino tops. I love it for its softness, but as I've mentioned, you can get tops in coarser breeds as well. I occasionally use locks when creating certain effects, like these vines on these mushrooms and also the sheep. And that's pretty much all I use. Who knows, maybe one day I'll try a wool that I've never tried before and like it better, but I'm a creature of habit, and for now I'm going to stick with what works best for me. I'll add a link for the online store where I purchase my wool, whose product I completely trust, but there are many, many wool sources out there depending on where you live, so have a look around and give different types a try. The more you felt, the more you'll discover what kind of wool works best for you and your favorite source to buy wool. I hope that helps to untangle the mystery of wool for those who might be a bit confused like I was. Like I said before, this video only covers the basics, and I may have forgotten or omitted something, so I welcome any comments you might have about this subject. I'm also interested to know what types of wool other people use, so feel free to drop that in the comments too if you'd like. To all my new subscribers and viewers, welcome and thank you for watching. And to those who are returning viewers, thanks as always for your support. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, take care.